Starting a business within 1 year to make money is difficult.
Right.
So if you invest in the right stock within 1 year, you will make money.
Got it.
So what is the purpose in life? What is life? Why have you been sent on this earth?
Hi everyone, welcome to Conversation with Kushal once again. It is an absolute honor for me to host the chairman of India's leading consumer product brands Marico Limited. Well, he joined his family business in the year 1971, but he wanted to start something of his own in the consumer products division, so he started Marico in the year 1990. Today, Marico Limited is worth more than rupees 63,000 crores in market cap, having operations in more than 25 countries with a revenue of $1.3 billion in the year 2022. He is also a fitness enthusiast and he mentions that whenever his weight goes up by 1 kg, he tries to maintain it constantly. And not only that, he has scaled his businesses to such an amazing level because he's fond of playing squash and therefore knows how to hit the ball perfectly. Let's introduce our guest through some witty rhymes. Heart disease prevent करने के लिए इन्होंने सफोला ऑयल बना डाला. ये ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन से बहुत अटैच्ड है बिकॉज ही इज अ फैमिली वाला. ये एम्प्लॉइज की हर बात सुनते हैं कभी भी किसी की बात को नहीं टाला. लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, लेट्स वेलकम मिस्टर हर्ष मारीवाला. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting my invitation.
Thank you for calling me here.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
First things first, sir, I read your book called as Harsh Realities, and this is like one of the amazing books I've ever read.
Thank you so much for reading the book, and the book has met with a very positive response. It's a bestseller now.
Right.
And we've been selling copies, and I think more importantly, those who have read the book, I'm getting very good feedback. Even on Amazon, we've got some like 400 reviews, and on a 5-point rating, we have a 4.6 score, so which is very good. But
that's commendable.
More importantly, I think there is a lot of learning for entrepreneurs, students, professionals in the book.
Right, absolutely. When I was going through it, I was feeling as if it's like reader stepping into the shoes, and that was very inspiring for me as a person as well.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of turning points. Your life has gone with a lot of ups and downs as well, which is evident in the book.
Yes.
So first things first, I want to ask you, like, what has been the turning point in your life as such, which changed your perspective, the way you look towards life?
So I think first turning point was when I joined the business, a typically family owned and managed business, where I was the first person from the next generation to enter the business. And I was very clear that I wanted to build something on my own. So the edible oil business, which was unbranded, I was able to convert that into a branded business. So the first turning point was the decision to convert the unbranded to a branded business. And I think that's something which I enjoyed doing it. It fitted into my way of doing things in terms of strengths. And I think to me, that was the first turning point, that I was able to establish an opportunity in converting the business from unbranded to branded. And that was, to me, is very important because ultimately, that's what's made Marico today. And then, as the business grew, 3 or 4 of my cousins joined business, and we were too many members from the family who were a part of that time the Bombay oil industries, and I was able to successfully convince the family to allow me to take this business into a new entity which was only concentrating on consumer products, because I wanted to create a culture which was relevant for consumer products. And in the main holding company, which was Bombay Oil Industries, we had different businesses: a chemicals business, a spice extracts business, which required different set of competencies and which required different type of culture. So I was able to convince the family to take this business into a new entity. It was not a ownership split, it was just a management split. To me, that has been one of the most important part of my journey in creating Marico. And that gave me a lot of opportunity to do new things on my own, because then I was only family member in Marico. And I was able to build a culture, expand the range of products from Parachute and Saffola to many other brands, diversify outside India. So I think that was the second, I would say, discontinuity in my journey. And the third, I would say, was when we went public, because when you convert the business for an unlisted to a listed company, there are a lot of, the way you do business is very, very different. There are pressures from outside, there are quarterly reporting, there you have to look at investor relations. So the way you do work is very different when you're a public company compared. You have to have an independent board of directors compared to a private company. And so that was, to me, a turning point. I would say these 3 are turning points. And in addition to that, we had a fight with levers, and we came out winners in that in our Parachute Coconut Oil. To me, that also an acquisition of the our brand name. After that, we acquired many other brands, going international, starting Kayas. And finally, the last turning point was when I stepped down as managing director of Marico.
In 2014.
Yes.
Got it. Very inspiring, sir. So, how did your interest generate in the field of consumer products when everyone else in the family was more in the B2B oil segment?
So, I would say that, as a person, I am not the kind of person who, those days, I'm talking of early 80s, the route to success was to get a license. I'm not the kind of person who can sit with a bureaucrat, get a license, entertain that person. And to me, this was a de-licensed sector. And it also meant that I had to deal with the likes of distributors who were easy to deal with rather than some high-profile buyer in a B2B business. So in a way, it really fitted in beautifully with what I like doing, and it was more tuned to my strengths rather than. So in a way, there was a very good fit with my strengths in getting into this business.
Right, makes sense. And in fact, in one of your recent podcasts with Raj Shamani, you had also mentioned that people should focus on what they are good at rather than what is being excelled in the industry.
Yeah, I always feel, because that's normally the mindset is that, I'm not good at this, so let me try and improve. But rather than doing that 75-25 rule, where 75% of your effort should go into improving your strengths or leveraging your strengths, and 25% should be towards overcoming a weakness. Unless you have a fatal flaw, then you have to overcome that weakness at a higher priority.
Makes sense. And talking about strengths and weaknesses only, what would you categorize as your strengths and weaknesses, and how did you capitalize on your strengths and tackle your weaknesses?
So, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm not the kind of person who likes to entertain and who wants to charm people and get work done. That's not me. So, I am relatively simple. So, I'm at ease with dealing with the trade. I think if I had to identify my strengths, I would say that I'm a learner. I am always constantly looking for newer opportunities through reading, meeting people. So from that point of view, I'm resourceful. I am deliberative. Once I get an idea, I go on thinking about it rather than just jumping in. I'm not that impulsive. I think I have a good leadership style in terms of openness, trust. So a combination of these would be, I would say, my strengths.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. And so, talking about our parents' values, which we imbibe as a person, I'm sure everyone in the world inherits some of the values which they carry on in their future generations and while building the businesses. Yeah. So if talking about your early childhood, and what are some of the, let's say, values or upbringing lessons which you always cherish, which are helping you in your day-to-day business routine? So
I would say that, I stayed in a joint family. And when you stay in a joint family with not only parents but uncles, cousins, so there is at one level there is a lot of relationship which is important. You build in values of tolerance because there is always give and take. So I think that's something which I learned a lot by staying in a joint family. The other thing I learned was that each family member came with a different set of, shall I say, interests. So diversity of interest, trying out new things, whether it's music or games or whatever. So I think that also played an important role in terms of making of me.
Right. I think a very well balance of, mix of academics plus professional life plus extracurricular activities.
True.
I think that has groomed you as a person.
Yes.
Also talking about money, sir, again, in one of the recent podcasts with Ranveer Allahabadiya, you had mentioned that money does not excite you at all. And, I want to ask you, how has your relationship been with this term money, and how has it changed over life right from childhood to, let's say, today?
I think one must realize that we come into this world empty-handed. You're not getting, when you go back, you go empty-handed. And money is just a tool to live a certain comfortable life. And beyond a point, you can't go on spending money because you made all the money. I am of the opinion that, of course, you should lead a comfortable life. I am not denying that to anybody. But I am against too much of wastage of resources, because a lot of other people in this world, they need those resources. And just because you make it, you should not say that I want to spend all that. Ultimately, you're a trustee. And it's very important you play that trustee role, that, to give something back to the society. I think that's where I'm coming from. I'm not for one denying that, okay, you need to lead a comfortable life. That requires some limited resources compared to the wealth you created. So beyond a point, then, your lifestyle should not change because your wealth has doubled or trebled or become 10 times. It will remain by and large the same. And the key thing to remember is don't splurge money. Can you put that same money by giving to somebody else rather than spending it, like, having a private aircraft or something where, it costs a lot of money, but, you're denying somebody else that.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's say asking a tricky question. So how
Yeah.
much money would be too much money for you?
I think, as I said, comfortable lifestyle. And, my lifestyle may not have changed the last 10, 15 years. It's by and large. You would have a nice house. You go for holidays. You have a car, a nice car. That's fine.
Yeah.
But don't go into hiring aircrafts and yachts. No, that's not me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And sir, I also read one of your articles, like one of the Economic Times article where it was mentioned that at age 72, Mr. Harsh Mariwala turns a LinkedIn influencer for the LinkedIn Brigade.
I
Entire
have
outlook
been on
of
social
LinkedIn.
media in the last 4-5 years,
Right.
and became active on Twitter. So on Twitter, I think I'm in terms of social media, I've gone maximum on Twitter, and I have something like 9 lakh followers. And LinkedIn and Instagram, I have just entered recently because I had good traction on Twitter. But I think I'm spending more time in terms of social media on Twitter. LinkedIn, yes, to some extent I have been there, but not to the extent of Twitter.
Got it.
Yes.
So what's your outlook on the creator economy in India? If you were to share your views, how do you see this entire digital social media space going forward?
No, I think you have to be. The fact that I entered Twitter was I just wanted to experience what it was, because otherwise, if you don't participate, you don't know what you're getting into. So the same thing I did for LinkedIn and Insta, and maybe over a period of time, I become more active. But all this takes a lot of time. Whether you want to post an article on LinkedIn or something on Insta or Twitter, I think it's very important that as we understand what's happening in the social media, because that's what is influencing lives, it's influencing digital media spends. So it's very important that if you are in business, especially in consumer-facing businesses, you know what's happening and how it is influencing thoughts, especially amongst youngster people. So it's a very important, I would say, thing which each and every businessman should understand. And to me, understanding is through participation.
Right.
If you participate, your understanding is much better.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I think I have similar thoughts because I've been
Yeah.
in the creator economy space.
Yes. Yeah.
Like brands are now turning toward influencer marketing as compared to performance marketing, because in order to reduce their CACs, they are trying to spend more on influencer through the loyal audience which they have.
Yeah.
So this is what I've noticed after talking to a lot of brands.
Correct.
And so like talking about the culture at Marico itself, and
Yeah.
I came here and I was reading through these amazing sculptures and arts. How is the company culture at Marico, and how have you imbibed this culture in all the employees of the organization?
To me, a culture is a means to an end, and culture cannot be disconnected from the strategy of the organization and the business you are in. Every business requires a certain set of competencies to succeed in, and the competencies required to succeed will be different for different types of businesses. Some other businesses like pharma, you may need technology, patents, research. Something else you may need. So if you're a service business, you need a service orientation. So when we decided to create a culture for Marico, we wanted to create a culture which was innovative. Because in the past, whenever some innovation had succeeded, we had a discontinuous impact on our growth. So how do you create innovation through culture was a very, very important challenge. And that's what we embarked upon when we decided to finalize our values, which are very open, trusting, empowering, boundarylessness, diversity, risk-taking, removing fear of failure. So these are all very important values if you want to create an innovative culture. And it's a means to an end. It's not an end by itself. Ultimately, there is a strong connection, as I said, between values, culture, and the strategy of the organization.
Right. And what would be the essence of these cultures if you can walk us through
I
the
think
audience?
these are just, I don't think there is a direct linkage with Marico's value. This was just taken from books. But I think these are good learnings for anybody. It's not necessarily these extracts are from the point of view of Marico's angle. It is actually for any good reading in terms of spiritual reading or anything which is relevant for human beings.
Right, makes sense. And for Marico also, like since you've expanded in more than 25 countries, etc., so you also have to hire a lot of people in your organization. And I was reading your book that you hired the top 5 talents from like various places. So what do you look for before hiring in a person, and what are some of the traits you look for?
So I think it's very important. First of all, you need to be clear whom are you hiring for and what do you expect that person to do. And you have to be very, very clear what is the role of that person. How will it impact through that role in the organization? And depending on the role, what are the competencies required? So there, on one side, there is domain knowledge, competencies and all that, which will be tailor-made to the role. The other side is actually what is the attitude. Is that person a learning person? How is the leadership style? Is there a cultural fit? I think these are the important things which are relevant across all hiring, So a combination of functional capabilities combined with leadership style, learning ability, willing to take risks, and which are, I think, relevant for each and every hire.
Right. So would you give more importance to the degrees and educational qualifications of people, or would you give more importance to the skill sets which they bring as a person?
No, I think it's more important to get skill sets and combine with the right softer issues which I mentioned about attitude, leadership style, willingness to learn, and things like that.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
And with your entire experience at Marico Limited itself now, like you've scaled it to a very amazing level as well. What is that one thing which you regret the most about this journey, and what is one thing that you're most proud of about this entire journey?
I'm proud of the fact that Marico has made a certain image. It's respected by all the stakeholders. There is shareholders, employees, any stakeholder, customers, associates. So I think that's something which we have a purpose in the organization. There is respect, and then we have created a growth engine in terms of new products, growth, profitability, market cap. So I think that's something in terms of what am I regretting? I don't have any big regrets. Okay. I think maybe we could have grown a little faster, much faster. We could have some of the areas where we were not proactive in identifying opportunities. We should have been doing that. So beyond that, I think more positives rather than negatives or regrets.
Got it. Yeah. And sir, since a lot of buzzword is also going about startups, especially after Shark Tank India, a lot of tech businesses are coming up. I wanted to know your thought process on startups versus traditional businesses which are there. So do you think that the tech startups which are coming up, they might be sustainable in the future as compared to a traditional business where you are selling a product to an end consumer and there's lesser involvement of tech being the main product. So what are your thoughts?
So I personally think that you are viewing it differently. I think ultimately even the traditional businesses will have to be tech enabled. So you cannot, many startups start like that, but ultimately, even in FMCG also, in our sectors, we have D2C brands. So they have started some of the entry barriers which existed, like mass marketing, television spends, distribution, physical distribution, that is overcome through D2C brands because they do it through selling it through e-commerce marketplaces, digital marketing. And I think many of the FMCG, including Marico, have started the D2C business. We acquired 3 brands in D2C business. And at some stage, they will get combined, Some of the brands are already getting combined. They're getting distributed through the mass market. So I think the digital or the technology integration will have to occur in all the companies, whether it's traditional or new age businesses. And I think the challenge amongst traditional companies is how do you drive that integration of technology, because if you don't do, then you will be left behind, or it may act as a threat to you.
Right. So technology is the critical factor for any business success.
Very important. Yeah.
Makes sense. And you mentioned that you've also acquired D2C brands. I remember you've acquired Beardo in 2020.
Yes,
then you also acquired Just Herbs.
And then True Elements.
Yeah,
and we also have our own D2C brands.
Right, correct. So, since you've acquired several brands, and Marico is also a digital first portfolio product, like digital first brands are there in the name of Marico. So what are your strategies, or maybe what are the factors you look at before acquiring these companies in terms of, making it a very good valuation plus making it a very fair deal for Marico?
We have our areas where we want to be in what we call beauty and wellness. So it should be, first of all, falling into beauty and wellness. And it should be present in certain categories where we are not existing. So Beardo is something we didn't have any product through Beardo. In True Elements, it was healthy food. We didn't have. So I think we enter into new categories within larger frame of beauty and wellness. And these brands should be strong. We should be able to see a potential in this brand being scaled up. Ideally speaking, over a period of time, these brands should actually help us to leverage our traditional distribution network, in taking them to the smaller towns, to small outlets. So it will be combined digital versus physical.
Got it. And what would be your opinion on these models, like Thrasio type models, which are entering into India, where they are acquiring D2C brands, turning them profitable through omni-channel and digital presence, and then exiting after they have scaled up?
So I think it's fine, because at some stage, they scale up, that's an opportunity available to FMCG companies to acquire these brands. So it's fine. I think it's great to, if you're not able to do it yourself, then you have to sell it off and then, create wealth, and then, somebody else who's better equipped to leverage that opportunity, they will manage it on their own.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. And in the introduction, you also mentioned about the fact that, you had been offered an acquisition offer for Parachute, but then HUL went into the competition space of Nihar Oil, and then you finally acquired that as well.
Yes.
So what was the entire environment like, and what was your mindset like at that point of time? Some strategic decisions which you took?
So I think the key strategic decision was, would we be selling out to them? Because in their launching Nihar, and going aggressive was to create fear within us to sell out. And to me, that was the biggest, shall I say, decision in terms of not selling out to them. Number two, how do you take a much larger giant in terms of better distribution, better marketing spends, better capability? So that was the second challenge. So we worked out a total game plan in terms of how we should take them on. And then the third is to have that resolution that we'll take them on. So the mental mindset is that, okay, we are the market leader and we will protect what we call our resource generating engine. And I think so those are the things which we looked at while taking them on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think market leaders talking about that, I think 1 in 3 Indians use parachute oil. You're also
Yes.
leaders there.
Yeah.
Saffola oil's market share is 81%, which is
Yeah.
the leading. So was this there at the back of your mind that you always have to be the market leader?
In the initial stages, yes, because market leadership allows us to get economies of scale. It gives us a better margin profile. So it was very important that you identified categories where you could be market leaders. But I think the time has reached now where, most categories and we are market leaders in most of our brands, whatever we do in that particular segment. But now if you have to go into some new categories, we may have to change a little bit of our strategy and to go into niches where, we have a right to win. So far, yes, it has been that endeavor to identify categories where we can be market leaders.
Got it.
Yes.
Now we've also discussed a lot of FMCG. Let's just discuss some couple of generic questions as well.
Yeah.
So as of now, what would be your biggest fears in your life? What are you scared of?
I don't have a big fear like that, but I think our dependence on hair oiling is high. So one is if hair oiling as a habit goes down, which is currently not going down, then there is an impact on our business. Number two, our role, earlier I was actively involved in managing. Now my role has changed from promoter-driven management to strategic investor-driven. So the need to go on finding the right talent to lead the company from a long-term point of view also is very, very important. So I would say succession planning at the topmost level will be very, very critical. The third is how do you drive growth through new brands, through existing brands? How do you make the core grow is the third challenge.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And since you also mentioned that you stepped down from managing director in 2014. So as of now, how would a typical day in your life look like? What's your routine like?
So my role has shifted from being a highly focused role in managing Marico and Kaya to, I would say, unfocused role because I'm doing a lot of things now. So I spend time on Marico and Kaya, which between them would be taking about 25-30% of my time. And then I spend time on my son's business, Sharp Ventures, with him. So he's managing day to day, but I spend some time. I also have, within Marico, I run Marico Innovation Foundation. So I spend time on that. I have Ascent, which is our way of giving something back to the entrepreneurs. And then we have Mariwala Health Initiative, which is my way of giving something to the society through grant making in the area of mental health. On top of that, I'm on board of 6 companies. I'm advisory board of some private equity companies. My book took a lot of my time in writing, and more than that, after that, in marketing the book by participating in podcasts and things like that. So that takes some time. So it's a variety of things I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. So you're a big fan of multitasking, it seems.
Yeah, I do many things, and also I started a business in aquacentric, and so just recovery from injuries through water. So yeah, I'm enjoying.
Got it. And what would be your daily routine looking like? Wake
it's
up
very highly varied now that things are back to normal in terms of COVID. I think my standard routine is be in office by about 9:30 and they're up to 5 o'clock. So every day is very different. Within a day also, there are a lot of different things I do. But it's all very well structured. And I have virtually, at the beginning of the year, I have allocated when will I review meetings with each of whatever I'm doing. So it's all planned out in advance.
Got it.
Yeah.
And in one of your interviews, you also mentioned that even if 1 kg of your weight goes up, you'll try to, maintain it constant. So
I'm very health focused. So and weight is one of the indicators of health. Right. I'm not saying the only indicator. So all the health issues, whether it's physical health, mental health, spiritual health. And I think I am also weight conscious because I like good food. So I have to ensure that I maintain that weight, which I have lost weight in COVID, almost 5 kilos. So I just want to keep it like that because I think healthy weight has a direct impact on your lifestyle, on overall health of your health, Yeah.
And I'm sure you would be using Saffola oil in your food.
Yeah.
So do you also believe in the concept of work-life balance, and what are your thoughts on that?
I like my work, and I find it difficult to divide work life. Many times I have to exercise in the evening. So, if I have some extra work. I take it home, I do it in the evening if it is urgent. But I have to allocate those 1-2 hours in the evening for my workout, I do it through flexible working times. I need not, to me, I don't have to be office to work all the time. I can work sitting at home. When I am traveling in car, most of the time I'm working, either making phone calls or, finishing all the reading materials. So I don't have a big conflict in terms of work-life balance.
Got it.
Yeah.
And just like last question before we move into the rapid fire round as well. If this is a tricky one, sir. So if you were in the shoes of Kushal Lodha and you were interviewing Mr. Harsh Mariwala, what is that one question you would like to ask him at the end of the interview?
So I would say, what is your purpose in life? Ultimately you're living a life and, you achievement, every person achieves something, reaches a certain level, but there is something beyond that. So what is the purpose in life? What is life? Why have you been sent on this earth? And what do you want to do to make your life purposeful?
So what is your purpose in life, sir?
So I think my purpose in life is to make a difference to whoever I'm interacting with. And I have to try my best to make a difference. It could be an entrepreneur, it could be somebody coming, but I think at the end of it, if I try harder and make a difference by it's not financially, maybe just some advice I may be giving. And the reason why I wrote the book was to make a difference, so that if some individual reads that book, gets some learning out of it, then I've made that difference in that person's life.
Very nice. I think you also mentioned that, first 25 years for learning, then next 25 for earning, and last 25 for giving back to the society. And now you are absolutely proving by giving back to the society.
Thank you.
So very well said, sir. So last 5 minutes, we'll just take a quick rapid fire round. This is the fun element of the segment. The rules are very simple. You have to be very quick while answering the questions.
Okay.
If you had to start from zero today and you had 1 year to make $1 million, what would you do?
I think the easiest way my son has done extremely well by investing in the right companies. I would because starting a business within 1 year to make money is difficult.
Right.
So if you invest in the right stock within 1 year, you will make money.
Got it. If ever your autobiography is made, which actor would you like to play your character?
That's a difficult one, but I would say Amir Khan.
Okay. If you woke up as the following people tomorrow, what would you do? Elon Musk.
I would be very futuristic, looking at what are the future technologies.
Got it. Warren Buffett.
Go on identifying newer opportunities through reading and interactions.
Jeff Bezos.
How do I work some new business models so that I create something new which was not there earlier?
Right. What have you learned from the following people? Uday Kotak.
He gave me advice once that the organization's interest comes first whenever there's a conflict between the organization's interest and any other stakeholder's interest.
Got it. Professor Ramcharan.
So when we had the levers battle, he gave me one advice: you have to protect your resource generating engine.
Oh, wow. And Azim Premji.
He mentioned to me once that it's easier to earn money and difficult to give money.
Wow.
It is far more difficult to give money, to give it to the right kind of a cause and to the right party,
Right. Very well said. React in one word to the following, sir. Marico.
Marico is like my third baby.
Family.
Family is love.
Right. Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship is adding value to the Indian economy.
And travel.
Travel is new experiences.
But yeah, and I've also heard you have traveled in more than 50 countries throughout your life. Select one thing out of the two: stocks versus bonds.
Stocks.
Okay. Renting versus buying a house.
Buying a house.
Startups versus traditional businesses.
Combine both.
Okay. Yeah. YouTube versus Instagram.
Instagram.
Or for you, it will be LinkedIn versus Twitter.
I would say Twitter then.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing you would like to go back in the past and change in your life?
I should have been a little bit more firmer with some individuals who took advantage.
Okay. And last question, one thing that no one knows about you and you'll reveal on today's channel.
No, it's some of my interests. I am very fond of Indian classical vocal music, and some people think that I'm more into Hindi music and all the Western music, but this is my core music preference.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. It was an absolute honor to interact with you, and a lot of people who are watching this are going to get inspired by this podcast.
Thank you, Kushal.
Thanks a lot for your time. I hope I could do justice to your time today.